Good morning, evening, afternoon, however you see it. So, I kind of want to take a trip back to how I originally wanted to do YouTube, and it's been like months, if not almost a year or so, since I've done this. Uh, yeah, I kind of wanted to go over animes and such, and I'm recording this on Saturday. Let me see, what day is it? Saturday the 26th. Yeah, don't worry about that, that's just a table. I'm recording this on the 26th because right now I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. More likely, I'm probably off watching anime. I might be hanging out with the guys. I honestly have no idea. Whatever I'm doing right now, best I can say is I'm trying to enjoy it. I'm trying to enjoy my day off. Uh, but yeah, just to get into the anime. So a lot of these I'm going to talk about. Of course, if you know a lot of the things I talk about when it comes to animes, you'll more likely know that I usually go for a lot of the isekai ones. And my thought behind that is because simply, you know, anime. A lot of isekai animes have so much fun outcomes to them between a lot of the main male and female protagonists. Just because it's random, it's goofy, it's fun for the whole family. Not the whole family, mind you, but and so a lot of the animes I'm gonna be talking about, yes, they're gonna be isekai. Some of them, I at least think one. I can't remember entirely which one it was because it was a long while back. But one of the animes I'm gonna be talking about, if I remember correctly, it was technically an isekai, but more or less that was just kind of a way to, how do I say, kind of just explain the character being a little bit different from like the family, from their siblings, however it was. So the only reason the show is technically considered isekai is because the main character is different in some kind of way, in more of an adult way of thinking about certain ways than the actual adults in the show. And it feels kind of wrong to call it an isekai because of all that. But then again, it's like it really wouldn't work if this really was a child just talking about all this, trying to come up with these ideas, trying to actually make it seem like they're going to be the big hero at just 12 years old or something like that. But I'm also going to try and avoid a lot of animes where I was going to say where something about the main character. I'm going to try to avoid a lot of animes that I've seen pop up on YouTube. I've seen some clips here and there, stuff that became really popular and made its way around. The only exception is gonna be this first one I'm gonna show. It's been the only one that I've seen go around so much, only because I recently watched it. I do have some thoughts on it. I do kind of enjoy it. I did enjoy it to a certain point to where I do want to talk about it. And that being Senta Red Isekai. Basically, what would happen if the Red Ranger went into another world? And you know, when I saw the clips of this go around on YouTube and such about his way of transforming being more or less like a band aid, which literally they do point out in one of the episodes, the fact that a company made some band aids to try and kind of look like they're Bond pieces, but I'm still not convinced that it's anything but a band aid they're using. Anyway, uh, so my thoughts on the show, it wasn't a bad show. Honestly, if you ask me, the show, it was good. It was good to the point of like I probably would watch it again at some point. I may watch it in like some kind of maybe next year or so, or maybe the year after that. Not anytime soon, really. The reason for that, the reason for me not being completely into the show as much as some people probably are, is because of the writing for a lot of the things that Red says. Because I understand it. This is basically supposed to be a Power Rangers thing. This is basically supposed to be the Red Ranger. He's supposed to have this heart of gold or just so much kindness and everything. But honestly, this whole entire premise of bonds, of the marriage gun, whatever it's supposed to be, there's like so much part of the show where it didn't need to be. We we already understand. A lot of the premise is supposed to be that they're rangers meant to be more of like keeping together like bonds, like friendship, family, all that kind of stuff. And the villains are the ones that are trying to end relationships and all that. But a lot of the writing for this show kind of goes so far out of left field that I swear to God, I almost wanted to give up on the first episode because of everything Red was saying. But I kept going with it because it seemed interesting. I knew that there was going to be a lot more to it. The only regret that I have is technically they didn't try to make the witch kind of like her own ranger in some kind of way. In my opinion, that probably would have been pretty cool. Maybe in the next season, if there is going to be a next season, I might have to read the manga to find out. But it seems like if anything, the first season ends with the Red Ranger mainly finally getting a group of 5 to join him in his adventure and trying to save the world and trying to put together uh, all that's been broke or whatever's been going on. So, and the only other interesting thing about this show that I really wish there was just a little more on is nearing the end when they go into that quote unquote forest. I'd say forest. If you haven't actually seen the show, definitely watch it. I'm not going to spoil anything about it. But in this forest, there's this one elf character who basically was passed down a kind of morph, uh, a kind of way of morphing. I don't know how else to call it. Because if you know Power Rangers, you know a lot of the Power Rangers, they have some very unusual gimmicks in doing it. Some of them being like phones, some of them being like wristbands and such, and then there are the more unusual ones like SPD having badges. Uh, not not Dino Ranger. Maybe it was Dino. The latest one where like the morph sequence was more of like loading a gun into a Tyrannosaurus blaster or whatever it was. You have all these different kind of morphing ways, and the way that Red has is, it seems logical. It seems like the kind you would see from any other ranger. But the one that this elf has, it's actually kind of interesting and unique because technically this elf doesn't just have like one power. She has an entire arsenal of ways to use the morphing sequence, and it's interesting. It's something that I would love to see more of if we get her. If she does more of that, maybe if some of the other characters are able to find some way of morphing themselves and later down the line. And you know, it, like I said, it isn't bad. It's not bad. It's just kind of hard to watch sometimes with all this talk about bonds and the way the weapon is and just all the shouting. I don't know if it's just me being too westernized with Power Rangers over Super Sentai, but yeah, honestly, a lot of the stuff that was going on kind of gave me a headache by watching. But, you know, I'd still watch it again at some point in time. Alright, and this one, Magical Maker. This one I recently just got done with last night, actually. And it's honestly not a bad premise. At first, I thought that there was gonna be some kind of mix-up. I figured this was gonna be like the other show where we don't really see we don't see the main character actually being isekai. It's just more or less like you got pieced together because of the things they say or the way they act and all that kind of stuff. But as it turns out, yes, there was a person who kept his chastity, to say the least, until he was 30, because he wanted to believe that there was going to be magic in the world. And I gotta say, if you. Like, to me, he didn't look like that bad looking of a guy, but then again, this is anime. That one invisible girl from My Hero Academia, for some reason, they said that she's like kind of ugly, but she still looks extremely cute because it's anime. uh, but yeah, this guy he kept himself from having any kind of relationship until he finally turned 30, and he thought that was gonna make him a mage. He thought he was gonna be able to perform magic and everything, and you know, I guess if you're an otaku, if you're like really hardcore into a lot of this stuff, more likely you'd believe it. He somewhat believed it, but he also knew it wasn't entirely true, which begs the question like, how far was he willing to actually take it if he didn't die right in his 30s? I'm not even joking. I think it might have been like maybe 5 minutes after he turned 30 that something happened and he ended up having a heart attack. And yeah, he ended up getting tossed into this new life. He is now this young boy who, at the start, wears female clothing, I guess, because he has an older sister. But I'm not gonna ruin too much. Let's just say that he wasn't supposed to be like there at the very beginning. The parents didn't actually plan for him. He was just kind of dropped there. Um. So yeah. During I think the second, third episode, his sister, and their friend end up seeing lights come out of this river, and that's when they get excited. They now believe that there is magic, and they want to try and follow up on it. They want to see what's going on and everything. And it's actually it's somewhat nice because where a lot of shows where there's already magic, you kind of see like everybody is impressed with it, everybody can see it. Not everybody can do it, but everybody just enjoys it. And some of these people, some protagonists in some of those stories, really want to do magic, but they just can't. For instance, like Black Clover, the main character, he wants to be the Wizard King. He has no magic though, but he can see all this stuff, he can see what's going on. That's not this show. Apparently, in this show, if you don't have the magical capacity, then technically you can't see the like more raw form of magic, and you won't actually be able to believe that magic is there until something happens. Like I said, I'm not gonna try to ruin a lot of this because if these shows are something you haven't watched, I definitely do recommend a lot of the ones I'm showing. Just mainly because you will have somewhat of a fun time. They are a little weird. This one, uh, let me just put this over here real quick. So yes, just to address that elephant. Technically, the brother he does love his sister and everything, and she loves him as well. She keeps claiming that she wants to marry him one day. And funny enough, as we find out later, the whole entire thing about him not being like part of the family and everything, it seems like something could happen. But he still wants to be kind of the brother to the family. He still wants to be like part of that family and is willing to keep on claiming to be not only the man and woman child, but also the little brother to the sister that he has. And I feel like I'm already saying a little too much because the show is hilarious in the way that the brother and sister kind of play off each other. And nearing the end, it kind of takes somewhat of a turn, but it's honestly really heartwarming the way the two of them are. Even if you don't like the idea, even if you don't completely enjoy the tag and everything, these two, they're not really trying anything of that caliber. If anything, they just have a very deep love for each other. It doesn't go anywhere physical, it doesn't go anywhere like overboard with the two of them or anything like that. In fact, it's more of like this is kind of a way to activate the whole entire magic thing. And again, like I said, I'm getting too much into it to where like if I say any more about this, it'll probably just uh it'll probably just be me talking about the entire show. Because there are some parts where it seems like maybe it's somewhat filler. Maybe you could have just skipped over it. Because either you see it over too many episodes to the point to where it's kind of like we've been here already. Let's go ahead and keep moving on from this. But yeah, I do recommend it. It is nice. There's not too much of like actual incest involved, so it is definitely worth a watch. It is very adorable. Next one. Uh, how do I explain this one? So basically, a lot of people who know how a lot of isekai shows work, right? That every now and then either somebody dies or somebody from another world is casting a spell to try and bring forth some heroes. And over the past few years, it's kind of been turned to where like the people who are summoning these quote unquote heroes, they're not exactly like good faith. They're not exactly the good guys of the story. This is kind of that. The only problem is that when the kingdom summons these heroes from another world, apparently there was a mishap. Apparently, uh, the main character of the show was accidentally grabbed and summoned to another world, kind of with the other three. He wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't exactly supposed to be part of the group. So what ended up happening was that the goddess who oversees the entire world, she kind of just plucked him right out of the group. She plucked him out of the group so that way he wouldn't go there, he wouldn't be part of what was going on, even though he wouldn't have been anyways. I don't think he would have landed where the other three were. So technically he did die, I guess you could say. But the goddess kind of wanted to do something about all this. So what she ended up doing was just gave him a new life. And also, it'd be wonderful to see that in a lot of isekai shows. Just the fact that these characters died or were kind of forced into a position that they had no control over. So the ruler of the world, or their whatever god oversees that world, they just take that unfortunate soul and just go, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and make you a deal then, real quick. You can go here. Just yeah, just wait for me to tell you what to do. Because yeah, uh, apparently the main goal, which you can piece it together as well. It's not gonna be. It won't be too hard to piece together exactly what's going on in the goddess's mind when she lets him stay in the world. But yeah, there's a plan, and part of that plan is. Let me just read real quick just to make sure I'm not gonna spoil anything. Okay, so I'm not seeing in the description what happens. So instead, I'm gonna skip over again because I do want people to actually watch this. So I'm gonna try to skip over enough of the spoilers so that I can actually talk about the show and get people interested in it. So apparently, you know how in a lot of y'all probably know how in a lot of anime shows, uh, there are slaves basically, and as you can see over here, there's definitely a tag that says slavery. In a lot of shows, such as Shield Hero, slavery, uh, technically, I guess in that show, slavery is kind of a gray area because don't get me wrong, it's extremely bad in our own world and everything. The only problem is in things like Shield Hero. In Shield Hero, it's not too bad because technically, there's beasts and everything that are getting caged, so that way nobody can actually deal with it. But then it's also the fact that I'm just not gonna even go down that route. Anyways, the good thing about this one is that technically the slavery in this isn't exactly all that wrong. Yes, they do make references about how a lot of slavers will probably go to find a pretty young woman to just quote unquote clean the house while also mending to a few personal effects. Anyways, so yeah, he goes to get slaves because he's trying to make some stuff. He's trying to like grow a business out of what he can do because of the goddess giving the blessing. Um, and as it turns out, he ends up helping out one of the slave girls because she had a really rough path where 50 years back she got actually injured, she got hurt, she was cursed, all this kind of stuff. So he goes out of his way to try and help her. And in doing so, he earns her trust. And from that point on, little by little, he grows kind of like a family of his own in this new world. And yeah, honestly, it's just another one of those female harem kind of isekais where it's like, even if it starts out kind of bad, even though at the beginning he kind of came across these girls because of something kind of wrong. He got to know them and everything. He got to actually like be a part of their lives. They got to be a part of his. They got to see what kind of guy he was, and they fell for him, of course. And it's extremely interesting in what happens because the creatures, there are also creatures that you can tame in this world, and one of which is somewhat like the main character from another anime. That's all I'm gonna say on it. That's I feel like that's already too much of a hint. Because once you see the monster, you might be able to put it together. Uh, you might be able to put it together after the monster evolves into its next form. So definitely watch it. It is really good. Um, it's your standard like female harem isekai fantasy kind of world thing, but it's not bad. And it seems like there could be another season later on down the line in which honestly I'm completely down for. I'd watch another season of this if it does come around. And yeah, as you can probably see up here, there are a lot of tags. I do want to try to get through this as much as I can without giving, like I said, without giving too many spoilers. And with that, we come to this one where I can still never pronounce. I can still never pronounce the wording, even though I was even thinking about it last night. This is kind of like from. You know what? Give me a moment. I got the Blu-ray collection around here somewhere. There it is. Yeah, so this anime is kind of like From Commonplace to World's Strongest, where an entire group of people, entire classroom is forced into this other world, where a goddess kind of tells them, okay, come up here, let's see what you got, and then we'll just go on from there. And yeah, the main character, he goes up there, he does the reading, but instead of being praised, instead of being talked to about what's going on or anything, he's just kind of shoot off the podium. And we find out why. Uh, but yeah, almost everybody else who goes up there, they're praised for what's going on. A lot of them you see get talked to, like, oh my, what a wonderful skill. Oh my, what power you might have. But then our main character is just kind of there. It's it's kind of like uh, Commonplace, the world's strongest in another sense as well, with the fact that the main character is kind of like in his world, he was so quiet, he was just so like out of place in his own like classroom, to where you could have really seen him being bullied by every single person. As a matter of fact, the how do I put it? The biggest bully in his classroom was actually kind of like meh about the guy. And what I mean is, he didn't even want to bother bullying him. He didn't want to bully the main character because he felt like he wasn't even worth looking at. He wasn't even worth like giving any attention to. As a matter of fact, the main character's nickname throughout most of the beginning is just Air, because he's there, he's noticed, nobody cares. And I gotta say, the one character I am not curious on seeing is the freaking teacher. Because in this one, the teacher isn't some kind hearted woman. The teacher isn't somebody who is willing to look after the students, isn't she isn't somebody who will like literally do what she can to try and help the students. No. This teacher is a guy and does not give two shits about any of the students being bullied by the so-called elites. As a matter of fact, after they go to the world, apparently a lot of the students become like S rank, while the teacher, if I remember correctly, he becomes a D rank. And yeah, a lot of those elite students that are really big on bullying, yeah, they turn their gaze to the teacher now because now they're in another world. They don't care. He has no authority over them. So they treat him like a lowlife. They treat him like a low rank person just because they believe there's a hierarchy when it comes to this ranking stuff. And I will say, if you did like the entire Commonplace to World's Strongest, you will definitely love this one. You will absolutely not be disappointed. And as you can see right over here, it does have a bit of CGI when it comes to even simple movements. Because whereas something like Black Summoner, whereas that one has a lot of CGI during the fight scenes, this one will have CGI during even the most commonplace things that you can do. Like, even just the angling of the camera will give the whole entire scene a more CGI 3D look. And honestly, it actually really works for it. It's amazingly well. And just like Commonplace, the World's Strongest, I'm definitely rooting for this main character to not only get up his level to the full max of possible 9,999, which he's not yet. Again, sorry, if already making the comparison makes you want to see this show, I definitely suggest going for it because it pretty much works out the same way in a lot of the ways that you would expect from the other one. To where I guess you could say it's somewhat of a clone. It's somewhat of a clone of the other show, but it has its own stuff to it. It has its own characters, their own developments, and just a whole entire thing with both the main character as well as the blonde elf. No, not because this time it's not a blonde, small stack uh, vampire girl. No, no, I probably shouldn't say small stack. she, either way, it's not a small blonde vampire this time. It is a. I don't even want to say this word, but it's a lavished, grown, uh, blonde-haired elf. And the reason I didn't want to say lavish, but I did because so much of the show, whenever somebody sees this elf girl, even in her disguise, making herself look like a human, apparently everybody looks at her with lust and they want to do something to her. They want to try and take her away from the main character, actually have their way with her. It's completely terrible, honestly. If it was me, I'd definitely smack around those people. I'd definitely, I don't know, maybe drop a little bit of a knife on one of their feet just to see how they like that. And even the small dark elf child, I guess in this, I guess in this show, a lot of the elf characters are more or less just, I guess they're kind of like something to look at during the night, something to hold, if you will. Because yeah, everything that I said about the blonde-haired elf girl, a lot of characters also have thought about with the dark elf child that's in the party. And yes, that is wrong. Yes, I do understand what I'm saying is no, it's something that should not be said. Do not blame me, blame the show. But I do still very much recommend it because with a lot of the action, a lot of the stuff that's going on, especially with it having so much in common with the other one, it's honestly worth the watch in my opinion. It is so much worth looking at, seeing their journey, seeing what's going on. Still need to get into watching third season of Commonplace as well. Because the third season got done a long while back, but I have yet to continue any of those things. And I do plan to get to it. I just kind of want to get a lot of these newer shows out of the way. Next one. Yeah. This one I saw a long time ago, and I thought was incredibly awesome. But best I can say is it's another one of those shows where it's kind of like the main character is so overpowered. Mind you, this is not an isekai. This is just a regular guy in this world and everything. With the description, with the way it seemed, I almost thought it would have been isekai. But no, so this is pure adventure fantasy and everything. And it's your common trope of the main character is so OP, is so skilled at doing almost everything they can. But it's the fact that, how do I say, they only learn the basics, and that's all they're good at. Because if I remember correctly, I don't know if it says it in the description, but yeah, apparently there were like 5 schools that he could have gone to, and he went to every single one. And unfortunately, even though he technically he would have been sent away from going to the school to be a clergy, they still allowed him in because of how determined he was to actually learn from there. And surprisingly enough, every teacher looked at him and said, that boy, he can only do the basics, but god damn, can he really do the basics? Apparently, he's kind of like a child prodigy in a certain sense. And when he gets done with all the schooling, pretty much all the teachers look at him and say, if you keep training, maybe one day you will get better and then actually learn something new. Maybe you'll actually come across something, incredible that only you can do. And as we see when he gets older, a lot of the basic stuff that he can do is so overpowered and incredibly insane. But because it's the basics, because he only ever thought of it as being the basics, he never thought that it was anything special. Even though he can literally create the actual sun in the palm of his hands, basically, he just says it's a basic fire spell. Or it's a basic, God, what was it? It was a basic, like, flame spell, I guess. Because that was just, it was just, when he first learned it, it was just supposed to be a simple fire. Just something to hold in your fingers, kind of like something to use to ignite. But not only did he learn how to make that grow in a certain sense, but apparently when he first learned it, he also knew how to do double casts, which to the teacher, apparently it took him like over a century or so to learn that. I'm not gonna talk about the other teachers because, goddamn, if the only one that doesn't make sense, that didn't make sense for a long while, is him throwing rocks. But after a while, how do I put it? After a while, after like maybe 5 episodes or so, or even after we go back and we see like how his training progressed back during the teachers, you end up seeing like exactly why he throws the rocks and why that's his like preferred method of long range. And honestly, I keep saying it, but yeah, a lot of these shows, I'm just gonna keep saying they're incredible because to me, they are. Like I see the scoring on a lot of these being kind of like 6 point something, almost being a 7 or so in a lot of them. But I think that's only because there's so many parts where it seems almost like repetitive when it comes to other anime shows. Like how the main character in this one, like I said, he only knows the basics, so that's all he ever thinks of them. He doesn't know, he doesn't think of them as being incredibly powerful. He doesn't think of them as being anything too fantastically overpowered or anything like that. He thinks he's one of the weakest people out there. He thinks he's just some very common person who's only ever learned how to parry. And at best, he can parry like, what was it, like 1,000 blades or something like that? But just hearing that should already give, just hearing most of this should already tell you how powerful he ends up becoming as an adult compared to when he first learns a lot of this stuff. So yes, I do highly recommend it, especially if you're somebody who enjoys one of those fantasy shows that's all about the main character more or less fixing a problem before it ever really becomes a catastrophe kind of problem. Because yeah, that's pretty much how this character operates. Okay, I had to pause my recording for a bit because honestly I was feeling a little bit sick. But anyways, yeah. So moving on from this one, let's see, what was this one? Uh, no longer allowed in another world. So let me look at the tags real quick, just that way I can kind of okay, yeah. Um, already, already the biggest, two of the biggest things, which my shoulder's covering up one of them. That right there. So, two of the biggest things in this that would probably, I don't know, kind of tip people away from the show would be suicide as well as drugs. Let me go ahead and clarify that this show doesn't exactly. Oh, I guess technically the main. I think I'm overthinking this too much. So, what it is at the beginning, the main character kind of wanted to kill themselves with the woman he loves, but didn't really work out. He ended up getting isekai by a mysterious truck. And what I love the most about this show is the reason that let me point it out. God, where was it? There. The reason it shows satire is because during the first episode, this show literally points out, oh, yeah, if you had a really crappy life, if you hated yourself and everything going on, this and that, you would have been visited by the magical isekai truck. You would have been visited by the van of mystery that knocks you, that kills you, and brings you over into this new magical world. And it's like, okay, I guess. I know you can't see my hands expressions, but you know, just trust me. It is one of those eye squinters. Um, but yeah, it's a satire because it basically talks about how each and every one of the isekai characters in the show basically had some sort of regrets. They hated something about their lives. They wanted something new. They wanted something more. And because of that, they ended up getting visited by the truck, whether or not it would have been possible. Literally, our main character is in the middle of the woods, about to leap into a rushing river with the woman he loved. When all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's two beam lights coming out from the forest, and then hits them. So it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what's going on. You're just gonna get hit. you you hate life. Here you go. Here's a truck. You're already on your deathbed in the hospital. Here you go. Here's a truck coming through the window. Oh, you were on the 10th floor? It doesn't matter. So many things about this show when it comes to that thought. As for the drugs, aside from the main character constantly taking, technically it's not antidepressants. Uh, Best way I can say is that technically is considered like narcotics. And it's because the main character he wants to kill himself. He wants to die because he doesn't see a joy in life. He's he used to be like a really famous writer. He used to be somebody who could really tell stories and everything. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons I actually really love this anime and the reason I think it actually deserves more of an 8.5 is because normally in animes, once the character is like they're an isekai and everything, that's that's just it. It's done. We spend the next like 2, 3 seasons in that world. There is no going home. But in this one, it's actually fantastic because there is a chance that this guy will write about either the enemies or his own allies, and depending on which one, he'll send the enemies home. Like if they're redeemable, if there's somebody who deserves a second chance at life, he will literally write their story, and then at the very end, he'll tear a page and now just send them home. Literally, if you want to think about it in a way of symbolism, it's basically he's writing their story, but he refuses to acknowledge it because their story isn't done yet. Because there's still so much they could have done. And the reason I want to say that it's more of that kind of philosophy, which in the show, yeah, the show is literally philosophy. The reason behind that philosophy is because there's one enemy character who is completely unredeemable. He was like a rich kid who got extremely bored with his life, who just didn't care for anything. So he randomly went out and just started beating on homeless people. I think he killed a few. I think he might have eaten a few people just to try and feel something, to try and just get kind of a rush doing something. That guy was completely unredeemable. He literally, he literally didn't want. The main character didn't have anything to write about this guy, so he didn't. Instead, he wrote about one of his own allies, about the hardship she went through because of her mother passing away, because the girl wanted to be just like them, just like their father, a strong leader, very will, or very hard headed and everything. She wanted to be something, but the dad was scared of losing her. So he kept trying to force her to try and be more ladylike, try and be more profound like her mother. And he kept on refusing to believe that his daughter should ever try to be something more than just that. Because the king, because her father also had a son who was trying to be, who was trying to be a knight. He was trying to be like the strongest member of the entire clan and everything. But he passed away at the same time as the mother. And to both the father and his daughter, that left like a huge hole in their heart and everything. But it was. I'm sorry, I almost got a little teared up trying to think back. I got a little teared up thinking about the whole entire thing because it's beautiful. It's beautiful that this main character literally wrote about her pain and everything, and how she wanted to define herself not because of not because of the stuff that happened to her mother or her brother, but because that's her life. That's the way she wanted to live it all along. And her mother was always her mother always approved of her trying to be stronger, of her being more tomboyish. The king just never wanted that for his daughter because he was always afraid of losing her. So when they wrote the story, when he wrote the story and empowered his comrade, it was just such a touching moment, honestly. And they were able to defeat the guy who was just so shit that he was extremely unredeemable in the world they came from. So, if anything, I highly recommend this. And don't let the whole entire drugs or suicide or anything like that put you off from watching this because it's still it's still very much a comedy with the way that the main guy is, with the fact that he's always so hard on trying to like die, trying to find a way out of living and everything. But he's there. He's there to stay and everything and all that. So he makes the best that he can and he writes these stories. He sends people home and they continue living on again. They already had their regrets. They already lived to, well, they died with regrets. They moved on to another world. And the moment they were ready to try and make things right, the moment they wanted to actually go back and try to change a few things, their story was written. Their story was written, taken away, and they were sent back. So that way they could actually get a second chance at doing this kind of stuff. Honestly, this show is just fantastic in my opinions. It's extremely well made. It's how do I how else can I explain the show other than it's completely fantastic? It's the kind of show that I wish there was more of, just simply because of the philosophy behind it, as well as the fact that uh, the characters being as wacky and goofy as they are, yeah, a lot of these sincere and heartwarming moments hitting like a freaking hammer. So yeah, definitely give this one a watch. I highly recommend it. And like I said, to me, it gets an 8.5. Uh, I didn't think this list through with going from that to this. So, this is a story. This is an anime that me and one of my friends talked about one time when I was still doing Twitch, because during those times my computer ran well enough to actually do live streams, and now it can't. Not yet. I'm trying to work on that. I already have a Raison and a new motherboard, but if anything, I'll go ahead and get iCore 9 or i9 so I can use for my current PC instead of just forcing myself to build up all this other stuff. But yeah, on to Slave of Magical Capital's Elite Troops. Slave of the Hell Soldiers. Let's go with that one. So, this one is kind of nice in a certain way. Because, two things. One, we can forget about the Ichi thing. Because, yeah, this does somewhat go on the borderlands of High School DxD. But, gonna scroll up because I saw something that I really don't like to be reminded of when thinking of the show. But yeah, so apparently this guy, he has not really an ability per se, but he can be used as a tool. And when they use him in a certain sense of being like a slave and all that, he gets turned into this giant monster and basically be useful. The premise behind the show is the fact that in this world, only women are able to have this really amazing power. And I really hate the idea that I have to say this, but if anybody out there is strongly against feminists, first of all, I don't give two about either side. If you're a feminist, good for you. Just leave me out of whatever war you're having with other people. But if you're somebody who wants to completely bag on shows, games, or anything just because like it has a strong woman in it, my God, you need to go out and get more sun. You need to go out and touch grass. But yeah, the reason I point that out is because somewhat like High School DxD, the show is mostly comprised of female fighters. And the thing about that is that the male, basically the only male character in this, he works for them. He does almost anything they say, and yes, technically all but one uh, become extremely attached to him. And I really don't have to say what that one exception is. If you watch the show, you'll know who it is right off the bat. But honestly, the main story behind all this is actually a really amazing telling. Because how it is apparently there's this unseen world that sometimes pulls people in. And when the main character was young, I want to say like maybe 8 or so, he had a sister. And they ended up in this world. They ended up in this unusual world. She got lost. She couldn't find her way out. He got saved. He was able to go back to the real. Yeah. My nose is slightly congested, so I'm having trouble saying certain words if you can't tell. So he goes back to the real world and he lives his life. But he does want to try and get a job to where he can go into that other world to where he can find her. Um, yeah, surprise, surprise. Apparently, in this show, when a woman eats one of these, was it like a peach or something? I think when she eats one of these in our world, she gets amazing powers. She can end up getting something extremely special that can help her out in doing missions, maybe in being really good at fighting and all this kind of stuff, or being more of a like scouting troop. But apparently, if you're in that world and you eat the fruit, you end up turning more of a monstrous kind of form to the point to where you almost lose your humanity. And his sister isn't even the first one. That's kind of the sad part. That there's at some point we end up seeing that there's an entire colony of these women who ended up doing all this, and they're more or less being hunted, seen as like group of monsters rather than just victims in this world that was extremely harsh to begin with. So technically, these girls tried to find some way to survive, and in doing so, they are now being hunted by the group that that the little brother ended up being part of. But not to give away too much of the ending, we do find out that because of how screwed up the Bureau is, which is the main organization of all these groups, because we see how messed up it is, the two groups that we've come to know in the show, they actually come together and they kind of look at everything like, yeah, yeah, we kind of don't like this, so viva la resti. I swear I know the words. Viva la resistance. So yeah, they pretty much go on about their day. They make it seem like they're doing normal stuff, but they are actually trying to plan to overtake the bureau. So that way, the main girl can become the new head of the bureau, and so that way, technically, the guy she likes will end up getting his sister back. Honestly, it's hard to talk about this show without mentioning a lot of the Ichi parts, or without mentioning much of some of the stuff that comes out later. Some of the stuff that makes the show really worth watching. Because the action scenes, honestly, this show is mostly just action scenes. There's not too many that involves the main characters having an actual like day-to-day life or anything like that. Every now and then, every now and then, yes, we do see that some of the characters they had family trouble. Some of them they do still go to school, and overall, I can kind of like sympathize with some of the girls because of the way they lived, because of the way they came to be. But yeah, this show is mostly action packed, if anything else, and it is extremely cool. The action is amazing. The story behind all of this is intricate, weird, and kind of cool. It's just a little sucky that only one season is out right now. I'm hoping there's going to be another season, or at the very least, if there's not, then I'll try and like I'm trying to find some way to read the manga so that way I can see what actually comes next. But yeah, as little as I talked about this, I do recommend it. Like I said earlier, I recommend a lot of these shows, and I do kind of recommend this one to a certain fault. Just so long as you know what you're getting into. Uh, damn, how do I talk about this one too? Okay, so this one, which has one hell of a mouthful of a name, I'll just go with the shortest one I can see that I can actually say. My instant death ability is overpowered. This show, I mean, the name of the show, or the show's premise, is pretty much in the name of the show. So what happens is it's kind of one of those typical uh, anime shows where a class of people mysteriously go into this new world and everything, and they're forced to be quote unquote heroes. I'll say it now because it's not, because it kind of just comes up and then ends. But we do see in the beginning, apparently there are three characters who have been to this world before. And they know what to do, they know how to do things and all that. What's kind of funny is that there are more, two of the three are the first ones to die in this group. So how it goes is the main character in this, the main guy, if I remember correctly, we don't know too much about him. Like, even when we see his backstory, that's something. That is a lot of information to get about him. But we don't know too much more, other than just that he might also come from the world that they are now in. But as he constantly says throughout a lot of the anime, he doesn't care about much. He's just looking to get this one girl home because that's what she asks of him. And he wants to keep his word. He wants to keep his word. I think there was something about it that made him want to keep it, but yeah, uh, I'm not gonna really try to remember too hard on why. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with the show being R rated. But yeah, moving aside from that, so the show is actually really good. It's kind of how do I say? If you're not too big, that's not even the right way. So if you're like my friend Makochi, and you're not too big on the entire, oh, this main character is extremely overpowered to where he doesn't even have to fight. Like, yeah, I'd say go ahead and avoid this because, again, right in the name is pretty much all you're gonna get out of this show. The main character can literally just look at somebody and wish upon death. They'll die instantly. Not a single word can be said to try and work around that. They literally just die. And that's the whole premise of the show, really. Just the fact that they keep dying simply because he says so. Because his main focus is trying to get this one girl home. So that's all he does. Honestly, this one, it's hard to describe because of the weirdness around it. But also, it's somewhat easy to describe because it's pure and simple. It's plain to the point. He's trying to get the girl home. Anybody who gets in the way, he just says die and they fall from the sky. If they're flying, they fall from the sky. If they're just standing there, they just drop to their knees and dead. So, short and simple, just like this show is with a lot of the explanations. Uh, I do highly recommend it if you don't hate the idea that the character is extremely overpowered and can literally end a person with just a word. Even the even the large like boss fight at the end of the show, at the end of the first season, it's kind of just done. Like the moment he sees the big bad's face, he just looks at her and just says, "Dead," and she dies. It's as simple as that. But yeah, it's hard to put into like a selling point, but it is a really good show. It is something to recommend. Let's see what's the next one. Uh, oh, if you love romances, there's a lot that can be said about this one. So, God forgive me if I mispronounce this name, but Aliyah sometimes hides her feelings in Russian. This anime, it's not so much that it has a ton of the romance that will make you choke up. it's not so much of the fact that these characters are constantly trying to find ways to confess their feelings. No, it's honestly more the fact that this main girl, she's kind of like an ice queen, if you want to put it in a certain way. She's kind of like an ice queen. Her closest friends are usually just the other members of the student council, as well as the one guy she likes. And the funny thing about it is, even though, even though she's saying everything she wants to in Russian, she will, like, I'm not even joking about that. She will literally tell him that she wants him to come up to her. She wants to be pampered and praised. She wants all this certain stuff. She will say that in Russian because she doesn't think that he can understand her. When in truth, back when he was a kid, he knew a girl that was Russian. He used to hang out with her. He ended up learning Russian from her. And I'll keep that as a mystery because it's not the main girl. It's not the main girl, it's somebody completely different and everything. It honestly makes me do kind of wonder sometimes if he might actually realize and try to get with that other girl instead. But yeah, so the other thing, okay, I had to look over my mic to check out the tags list just to make sure that I wasn't gonna give too much away. But yeah, you know how earlier I was saying that the whole entire like incest thing was okay in that one show because technically they weren't brother and sister? Yeah, this one is different because the main character, as well as one of the girls that's on the student council, they technically are brother and sister. And the sister has some weird brother infatuation with him to the point to where she will literally I can't even say that she'll even tease him in front of her. Even when the Russian girl is not in front of the two of them, she will literally be at home with her brother and try to like nudge nudge hint hint. Or I'm sure you've probably seen it on YouTube on some of the shorts. But yes, there is a point where she gets on his bed or in his bed or something like that to try and wake him up. And she will literally go off and talk about how he should be so happy and lucky that a cute sister would want to do something with him. It's honestly the strangest thing that comes to mind when I think of this show sometimes. But honestly, I do recommend it for the romance between uh, what's her name, Aaliyah, and let me actually scroll down for once to take a look at the character name. Wait, it's actually Alyssa. Okay, well, between Alyssa and Kuze, because yeah, I'm kind of trying to see. Let's see, Masashiki. Oh no, wait, that's right. The brother and sister technically have two different names. Because if I remember correctly, after they had uh after they had their daughter, technically the mother and father kind of divorced. If I remember correctly, the father took the son, and not long after that, he passed away to where uh the grandfather was kind of looking over the boy, whereas the mother was still alive and well. I think she was actually like running. She was running a business, if I remember correctly. But yeah, she changed her last name. I think she changed it back to her maiden name, or maybe she got remarried. Something. But technically, the brother and sister are related. They just haven't lived together since they were kids. Which is probably one of the reasons why the sister is so infatuated with being so close to her brother. I'm not saying that that's a reason. I'm not saying that's a good reason. I'm just saying that's a possibility on why she's the way she is. So the chemistry between the two main characters, it's honestly extremely sweet. It's extremely nice to watch every now and then, even if he knows exactly what she's saying. So he knows exactly that she wants him to do stuff and everything. It's extremely cute to see him like pretend he doesn't know what she's saying, to just act dumb so much because if she knew if she knew that he knew Russian, it would probably shatter so much of the show to the point to where this woman would go mute. Another isekai show that is honestly kind of nice. It's kind of nice in a way to think about because the main character in this technically isn't, well, he is extremely powerful and everything. Not as much as these kids that you see in these screenshots up here. Because the kids, they are technically children of one or two gods, basically. And the thing behind it is the fact that, if I remember correctly, the goddess who helped him cross over, she wants his help in taking care of them. And it's extremely sweet because he's now like a father of two, trying to like take care of them, trying to actually be like a good role model, and just doing all sorts of things to try and raise these kids all by himself, even though he has no idea what the hell's going on with them for a large majority of the show. Like there are some moments during like even season, not season, even during episode like maybe four or so, he has like a slight, he has like a slight guess on what's going on with the kids, but the actual reality of it doesn't come until later, and he's somewhat surprised, somewhat not. But yeah, just I really recommend this, especially if you're somebody who kind of gets a little sappy over a lot of like family moments, a lot of family moment stuff in anime shows, because it's extremely cute on how he's trying to take care of these two kids. It's two twins who's basically like a boy and a girl, and he's trying to raise them both so that way they can properly grow up to not only like discover who they want to be themselves, but to have them grow up in kind of a way to lean them into a better tomorrow, kind of helping them to grow into their more godly natures at a certain point. And at one point, he tries. I'm not even gonna say it. It's a bit of a surprise to see it. You kind of you kind of don't think that he would. You might think that he tries to fight something on it, but it's more or less his idea on doing this, so that way, because he thinks that it'll give the kids a better life, even though in the end of that, they end up choosing him. So yeah, honestly, it's really it's really adorable. It's completely filled with a lot of like actual isekai stuff that you'd probably think of, and yeah, honestly, I do very much recommend this if you're looking for something with a little bit of action, but a lot of like family wholesomeness to it. Speaking of family wholesomeness, okay, I lost my train of thought because I had to pause for a moment. I forgot that I had my Dr. Pepper with me, and I had yet to take a drink. That's not the truth, but you'll never know the truth. Anyway, so this show, when I say that, when I say that there's like really good isekai animes out there with a lot of like family, tendencies to it. This show is technically one of them because, to put it simply, in a lot of anime shows, of course, it's mostly somebody from our world going into a fantasy world where there's like monsters and everything, right? In this one, it's not that because the main character, he's already from a world that has magic, that already has monsters. A lot of demi-humans in his world are mostly used as slaves or used with for yeah, unfair labor. And in this one, the guy goes to another world where that's just not a thing. And he's surprised by it, but he's also very happy because that's the thing that he tried to work so hard towards in his own world, with even going as far as to actually pay the goblins and such an actual wage like he would anybody else. Even though technically anybody else in his old world would probably ship would probably cheap out with the goblins and only give them a quarter of the pay, just because they're not humans or whatever. But not only that, he comes across this one wolf girl, and even though he's fooled at first, he does technically take a liking to her to the point to where, yeah, they become a couple. There's no way of getting around it. Yeah, they basically become a couple. And even though he was summoned to this new world, it was again, it's one of those animes where it's kind of like, oh hey, we summoned heroes. Uh, One of them is completely weak and has nothing interesting to him. Okay, throw him out to the wolves. 5 minutes after being thrown to the wolves, I am a god. Like no joke. He, if I remember correctly, he, God, what was it? Let me see if does not gain any exceptional powers at level 1 as hero candidate. Okay, yeah, that was it. So when they're summoned, apparently being heroes, they're supposed to have like some kind of really amazing skill to them. They're supposed to have something extremely powerful for being hero candidates. He doesn't have anything. So that's why he's kind of thrown to the dark woods or whatever. just just kind of as bait. The king thinks, oh, well, you know what? Nobody's gonna really miss him, so he can't go back to his world anyways. Yeah, let's try again tomorrow. See what we get. Come on, gotcha roll. Yeah. So he goes there, and apparently he has a skill called purification or something like that, and he does it. The funny part about it is that apparently there are a lot of monsters in that wood. So because he used purification, he ends up killing so many of those dark monsters. One of which was actually the brother to the girl that he is now with. Don't worry, that comes up later on in the story. Trust me, somebody actually tries to use her dead brother as a kind of way to get her to turn on the guy. Doesn't work though. I'll leave you to that part. Yeah, it doesn't work. Uh, yeah, honestly, the girl is extremely infatuated with the guy, and it's extremely wholesome. It's extremely sweet because not only do they get together and they kind of like act like they're already a married couple, but three of the adventurers, the three or four, I think it was only three. Three of the adventurers that originally tried to like help the guy, like not get tricked by her. Uh, yeah, they end up. How do I say? They end up joining the two married couple because they're kind of like, well, you know what, our life kind of sucks, and things seem more fun with you, so let's go ahead and stick around these two. So yeah, they end up becoming like a small little family and everything, to the point to where they even have a house out in the woods. I think technically it's supposed to be like a getaway house, so it anybody that's adventuring can go to the house and take a load off, try to relax a little bit, not have to worry about monsters. But they use it as if it's their own home. They use it literally day in, day out, to the point to where they're even creating a farmland right in front of the door. And it's actually kind of nice. What's actually really funny about it is that because the second hero that got summoned, he's a complete douche. Like, he is the most insufferable person that there is. But because the king, I think the king dies. Either he dies or he's overthrown. But something happens to the king, so the young princess takes over. And she, unlike her father, she actually thought, you know, all this is happening when that other hero candidate went out to the woods. Yeah, probably a very bad idea. You know what? Let's go apologize. Because what my father did to him was real but the fact that he ends up actually having this incredible skill, that could actually help a lot with trying to hold back any ill forces. And I kind of want to talk about more about this show. I feel like the further I talk about it, the more I'm gonna get into some of the good stuff. So for now, I'll just say it's extremely cute. I love the way the two main protagonists are, and just the fact that it's a little closer to slice of life romance than it usually would be with fantasy. It just makes it all that much more worth it. So definitely give this one a recommendation. This one, I think this is the one where we don't see the main character's actual background before the entire reincarnation thing. Uh oh wait, no, okay. Looking more at the description, yes, we do. I do remember. So they were in the main character was in this exact world. It's just more the fact that in the time that they once lived beforehand, there was some kind of rule about magic, saying that only the elites had so much magic, whereas the poor or commonplace man only had so much that they could do. So, yeah, the main character is all about learning magic. They very much do that. And I am now looking at the tags. Some of it feels very confusing, as I don't remember much. Cute boy just doing cute. Okay, I will say this. Yes, for so long I kept on thinking that that young boy that you see up there, I did think for the longest time before I started watching this that that was actually supposed to be like a little girl. I legitimately thought this was that one show where a grand old wizard who once had so much power once in his original life reincarnated as a small girl of an aristocratic family. Now, this isn't that. This is completely something else. I still don't think I remember where the incest part comes from. you know, yeah, honestly, it's really fun and everything. And as it turns out, everybody around this young child, they're just infatuated with it. They're just infatuated with him. A lot of them want to see like how he grows up and everything. The maid is completely unhinged. Do not trust that maid. If she tells you to back off from the child, you back off from the child. I'll say that much. But the show is really good. The main character is kind of awesome to watch because even though they're technically like a small child, they do so much, and it is honestly baffling that something like this can be. Then there's also the battle maid, that's technically looking over the child. I think at first it was kind of like a duty they didn't want to do, but then it kind of became like, I love this child, I want to take care of it like it's mine, kind of thing. I think further than that, but let's not get into that part. So, yeah, this show. Why is it that I keep talking about shows, but I don't want to give too much? Like, I heard it from Makochi and Akira. Like, I apparently talk too much to the point to where I give away the main plots of things. And I feel like if I don't talk enough, I'm not giving a full description. But I will try to do what I can with a lot of the remaining shows, which is how many? Quite a bit. So I'm gonna try to do what I can to give people an actual reason besides just saying it's amazing, it's awesome, you should definitely watch it and all that. But yeah, basically, small child wants to really learn about magic, and I think even as a contract with a demon as a pet, sort of. This one. This one makes my heart just cry. Okay, so to give the main premises, um, let's see. The name of it is How Do I don't know. Okay, an Archdemon's Dilemma. How to Love Your Elf Bride. So first of all, she's technically not a bride. If you've never seen the show, she's technically not a bride. She's more of, as it kind of says down here, she's more of like a slave. She was once a slave to another archdemon and everything, but after his death, a lot of his stuff got repossessed or it was auctioned off. She herself was one of those things. And if I remember correctly, he never got a chance to actually like see her before the old archdemon died. So she was auctioned off, even though he technically had the key to her slave collar. But it's extremely, it's very beautiful because this guy I can kind of relate to quite a bit. as as sad as it probably would be if you actually watch the show, um, I do relate to him quite a bit because he doesn't really go out much. He literally bought a castle just so that way he can have a place to be, and he almost feels like there's nothing he needs in his life. He has it all. He just has almost no wants. He just learns things so that way for his own purpose. But yeah, one of his friends drags him out to go to the auction and everything. If I remember correctly, he went because he thought there would be a good book. Maybe there's gonna be some from the old demon lord that he would want. Lo and behold, there is quite a beautiful elf girl who had silver hair, which was extremely rare, I guess. Yeah, he took one look at her and he completely fell in love. He literally gave no shit about etiquette and just went down to where she was. Literally said that I will pay every last penny that I have. And nobody even batted an eye. I don't. If I remember correctly, like, he opened up with that. And not a single person judged him. I. Not judged him. Not a single person tried to outbid him. They looked at this man like he was completely insane with just giving up everything. So he wins. He takes her home, and a part of him feels like he doesn't want her to just be a slave and everything. So he wants to try and find the key. But he also feels like if he does that, she's just gonna run away. She's just gonna think like, oh, okay, I'm free. I'm just gonna go ahead and leave and never talk to you again. Which, you know, kind of understandable. You did win her in an auction, which she was kind of a slave throughout most of her life, if I remember right. So yeah, she would have no actual feelings towards him as he does her, but it does take him a while to find the key, anyways, because apparently it's in the old Archdemon's estate, and nobody has access to that. Nobody but the current 11, I think, members. 11 or 12. Because they're definitely missing one. But I can't remember if the full count would have been 12 or 13. I also want to say 13 because that seems like more of a demon-esque thing to do. But yeah, so he tries to make her living arrangements comfortable. He wants to try and show her that he cares. Only problem is he has no idea how to fucking speak to this woman. I like I said, he speaks to me in a way because I have very zero etiquette when it comes to actually talking to women. Because I am so head first into my nerd stuff that I very little, if at all, know how to actually talk to most girls. They probably have interests in something other than just anime, video games, or just weird stuff like this. I say that, but I feel like I can connect to some other VTubers in a sort of sense like that. But yeah, so he has no idea how to actually talk to her because the only person he's ever talked to is his friend, and he likes this girl, so he has no idea what to do. We see later on that even after she becomes free, if I remember correctly, he frees the girl, but he doesn't want her to come to harm. So he tries to tell her, like, okay, now that I'm part of this very elite group, you're gonna have to go. I don't want you to get hurt. Literally, at this point in the story, they already have such a huge bond and everything, to the point to where like she's extremely sad and heartbroken. I think at one point she even tries to let somebody kill her, but yeah, no, it's extremely sad because at a certain point in the story she does like him, and that's where the whole entire like marriage thing comes along, which I'm somewhat blocking. Yes, the marriage. So just like the tag next to it, the found family. Yeah, the two of them more or less become family, and that family actually keeps growing. I'm not gonna say much. It's adorable. It's kind of how I want my own fantasy life to turn out. Like, I'm already creating a story. I already have this whole entire story with my VTuber character worked out and everything that somewhat mirrors what's going on here. Except the only part is my character has yet to find a wife, and he's all right with that. You know, but at some point, this this story will probably be what my character comes across. It's like he's taking care of like so much in his village. He's taking care of so many children and everything. He comes across this one woman. He has no idea how to talk to her. I should really write that down before I forget about it one day. So yes, must watch. Extremely adorable, very wholesome, and yeah, just high recommendation. Just because I like it and I can actually feel for it. Oh, if you like Goblin Slayer, you are probably not gonna like this, honestly. Okay, so this one is somewhat of another isekai. We don't get much into the character's past life, but how do I say this? This kind of does align with some of the stuff we see in Goblin Slayer, where goblins are mostly male, but they grow fast, they go out, they hunt for like females of the human race, so that way they can mate with them and have children. The only thing about it is that this guy, he takes over, and once he sees like there are human women involved, he pretty much says like, no, we're not doing that. You can screw off. I will beat the out of you if you try to deny me. Which somebody does. And he literally does kick the old leader's ass. So now they're human women. Now they're free to do whatever they want. And, you know, one of the things they want to do is him. Not only that, but there's also, I think technically there's also like female goblins in this show, which isn't isn't kind of like Goblin Slayer because there are no female goblins. But if I remember correctly, in this, it's kind of like female goblins can't really have success. They can't have like children with the male goblins. Like it's not anything to do with reproduction. It's more of like kind of like saying that they're sterile. If you don't like hearing that word, best alternate word I can think of is they just simply are incapable of having children. I can also think of that triggering a few people. There's multiple ways I can try to put this that's gonna like trigger somebody who can't have children themselves. Which if you can't have children, I do my heart does go out for you. It really does. If you're trying to have a child but you medically can't, like I do apologize for anything if what I'm saying in all of this is setting you off. But you could always give adoption a try because there are like hundreds of kids out in the world that don't have parents for one reason or another. Whether it was because the parent was God, I don't even feel like I can say that word, negligible, and just gave them up at a young age, or if the child lost their parents at a young age and nobody in the family could take care of them. Like, if you're having a hard time having a child, try giving that a chance because honestly, even if you can't have one of your own right away, if you do feel like you want to become a parent, I think that there is a program for some people who want to try and be parents to try and somewhat foster children to the point to where like you're somewhat their parents, but you haven't signed any legal papers. You haven't actually taken them home. You're just helping to look after them, which that would actually give a lot of people a good excuse to try and get a feel for being a parent than just trying to rush right into it. Most people they want to have children, but then once they actually have the child, some of them don't think that they can anymore. That they don't want to actually have the child around. That maybe the child, maybe giving birth to the child messed with their heads a bit. Because to get into a medical kind of outlook on it, when a child is being formed inside of a woman, I'm sure a lot of y'all already know this from biology, but when the child is being formed, it messes with some of the chemicals in the female's heads. And when I say the chemicals, I mean their hormone. As a lot of married men can probably vouch on this, when a woman is in the process of having a child, she will go through so many moods and it's just all over the place a lot of the times. Sometimes she'll even snap for no reason. And that's not her fault. That's because when a child is being born, a lot of the chemicals being released from the woman to actually come together to make the child in her, it sometimes messes with the hormone levels or the chemicals inside her brain to actually give those kind of responses. So, for most people, when they have a child, that kind of thing can happen to where it rewrites their thought process to where they don't really want this child anymore, to where they feel like they don't actually have this sense of parental guidance they can give to the child. That's why adopting is so like useful. I That sounds harsh and it sounds weird, but it is what it is. It's useful because you don't have to go through the worry of if or not your mind is going to change after you have the child. Because if you're really set on having a child and you want to make sure that no matter what, you will love the child, you will give them the best that you can, adoption is usually a better answer because you don't have to worry about the hormones acting up in you to where your thought process now changes. And I know I kind of got off topic from the anime and everything, but that's just how it goes. So I love the show because it's kind of like how do I say? It's kind of like another look if goblins had more of a human sense to them, to where if goblins were more like had more thought process than what some shows give them. And it actually works out really well because we see that these goblins evolved further than what most of even their own kind believe. And not only that, but we see that because of the way the main goblin guy acts, we see that the human women actually do have a fondness for him. And boy, oh boy, there, there's one episode where the girls get very jealous, and it is very funny to watch because this man has no idea what the hell is going on. Okay, I feel like part of this went into too much of a seriousness that I didn't want to kind of bring into, but it happens from time to time because I don't want a lot of my stuff to be completely serious. I don't want it to be completely like haha jokes and weirdness and everything to it. I do kind of want to bring attention to some stuff out in the world. Not, I don't know how to say this, but not like the drama that you probably seen with a lot of these IRL streamers and everything. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into the policies like how Pokimane did with the Eat the Rich, even though she has millions of dollars. I don't want to get into that kind of stuff. I'd rather stay. I'd rather keep my hands out of stuff like politics, world economics, and all that kind of stuff. I'd rather keep it simple. And yes, the entire thing of biology and adoption and everything, that's on the border of simple, as I will usually go in these kind of things. So move on from this one to try and give a better freshman. This show. So, uh, now I'm gonna go and play it simple. The show is fantastic. It shows like healers can do more than just uh, heal somebody. It can also be used to try and help you strengthen yourself. That if healing magic was used today for a lot of people, some people would actually use it for personal fitness, which isn't too bad. If you watch this show, you'll know why doing it like that would probably be a good idea. And it really does give a light to a whole new way of trying to use healers and even stuff like D&D. So, yeah, I'd say this is definitely a watch. What actually got me interested was the fact that he was carrying a giant blue bear. I don't know why, but when I first saw this, I thought, wow, this looks amazing. Wow, this has something to do with the healer? How the hell does a bear work into this? So I watched it. I was not very disappointed. It was actually pretty cool. Alright, and this one, which I don't remember if I saw a lot back in the day when it first came. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure of what CGIs this one had. But best way to put it is think of the most popular guy in school who every girl wants to be with, who has an extremely overprotective mother and coddles the boy, very much so to where she will scream at her husband for hitting him. And that very popular boy just wants to go grow tomatoes or something. That he wants to go out and try to grow his own vegetables, his own berries, all this kind of stuff. That's basically the show. The guy is incredibly, he's well liked by a lot of the female characters and everything, but a lot of that is also because he's very strong, because he's also very resourceful. Thing about it is, he doesn't care about too much of that. He just cares about farming, because in his eyes, well, not to get too much into it, but there's a reason why he sticks to farming even after so long. And the story is a bit sad, but somewhat understandable. It's kind of a trauma based kind of trigger to where he does this not because of just for himself, but because he doesn't want other people to go down the same route that he once had to when something happened, when there was not enough food to go around. Again, short and simple because a lot of this does have some very good comedy. It's very nice to watch between to see how the characters all interact with one another. So, not gonna say too much. It's very awesome, very cool, and you will get a laugh out of the way the mother is. I guarantee you that. Uh, this one. So you know how I was saying a while ago that there are some animes out there where uh, sometimes you'll get sometimes the main character will be summoned even though they shouldn't have been. This is more or less that, and it's kind of weird to think about because technically this guy he was summoned without really needing to be summoned, but yet it's not that he has an OP skill. It's more the fact that he has an enjoyment for cooking, and well, his skill allows him to pretty much buy whatever he wants. He has a skill called online shopping, or online supermarket as the description shows, and he more or less uses that to get items from his world to try and cook meals that he once loved, that he once enjoyed eating, and overall, I can kind of sympathize with the guy. I'm pretty sure that if I was sent to another world and I was given this power, yeah, I'd more than likely try to do this stuff as well. And he ends up growing as a character, but more importantly, he also gets some monster companions with him because somehow his cooking was so delicious it tamed Fenrir. Yeah, how that happens, I have no idea. But animals do love really good meat, so that's all I can say on that. Honestly, I do want to kind of see this show get a second season, so where he meets up with the other heroes and they go on a small little quest because he was summoned, he wasn't supposed to, but unlike most shows, he wasn't just thrown out. He was actually given a fair amount of money and was told, "Go live your life, do whatever you want to do." What did he do? He got the hell out of the kingdom that summoned him because apparently they were going to war and nobody wanted to be there. But then they also blocked off the border, so kind of tough luck on that. And I just now noticed my camera turned off for some reason. Give me one sec. Let me see if I can get the camera to come back on. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, I really do recommend this show and everything. I do recommend it because the main character is pretty cool. The monster companions, I should say, they are actually really awesome. And once again, the goddamn camera. I'm sorry, but apparently people like Scuff, and this is happening because of that. I'm gonna have to keep turning it off and the Mac on again. Okay. Third time, here we go. I swear to God, if this thing cuts out before I get to the last one, I'm gonna be slightly upset. Uh, in which case, let's go ahead and move on, because we only have two more. Yes, Zombie 100. Hmm. So, okay, let me first by saying that, yes, like a lot of others, like I said at the beginning, this show I do technically recommend because it's actually very cool. A lot of the action that goes on is very nice. A lot of the character growth that I see, it's very how do I say? It's very much how I would see a lot of people being when it comes to the end of the world. When it comes to zombies being real. The thing about it, I'm gonna come out and say it, no matter how it makes me sound. It's got way too many fart jokes. It's got way too many crude humor for my kind of taste. And I get it. There are some people out there who do enjoy this. My best guess is that if you enjoy something like Adventure Time, more than likely you would enjoy some of the humor in this. And no, I'm not calling out a lot of people. I'm not calling out people who like Adventure Time as having very crude humor. But I would say that people who like Adventure Time would probably see a lot of worth in this more so than I would have. And it's again, it was a very good show. There was just too many fart jokes, too many jokes about one of the characters being nude, and just having that as kind of a thing. Uh, so yeah, it was kind of cool and everything. I swear to God, my camera really does not like my face today. Okay, just for this one. Okay, you know what? I'll go with that face. All right, this is the face that you're gonna be seeing for the rest of the time because I cannot get my camera to work right now. But anyways, it was very cool. A lot of it was really awesome, and the fact that the main character is going through this kind of life-changing moment at the end of the world, I actually do see as something that a lot of people would do once they start hearing that the zombie apocalypse has happened. And just the somewhat romance that I see between him and one of the female characters, it's something that I can definitely like get behind if there is a season two involved. So let's go ahead and move on to the last one. Yes, this one. I shall survive using potions. So a little disclaimer on this one. Um, if you don't know, or I should say, if you if you're not a fan of like smaller child almost like characters being used in shows, you probably wouldn't like this one. Even though technically, even though technically in the first episode, it is shown as this is how she technically looked in her old life. She was small, she was flat chested, she was a businesswoman. Pretty sure she worked for a company and just chugged energy drinks. And yeah, no, again, she was the most somewhat chaotic character I would have come to have known. I'll say the main character was adorable. I'll say it like that. The main character was adorable, and a lot of what went on was fairly amazing to see. Because the way it is the main character can only make potions. That was her main thing of wanting to be in this new world. And one of the problems is some things she can't just easily make a potion for. So she technically made an object that, how do I say, kind of held a kind of potion in it. Like a sword. She made a sword that, when it was grabbed by the knight, it allowed her to come back to life. And she was very much happy to be alive, and she went on a killing spree in the battlefield. I do see it says adoption down right over here. I don't entirely remember what the adoption thing was all about. Um, Seeing it say fugitive, I'm pretty sure I know why. If I'm not mistaken, this is the same show where, actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. This is the show where she tries to get work somewhere, but because a nobleman has such a huge infatuation with her, she keeps telling him no, but he still wants to take her as his bride. And because he can't take no for an option, she ends up running away. And the prince does not like that. He wants to make the main character his bride. So he will literally try to hunt her towards the end of the world. But yeah, it's not gonna happen. She she does not like the man whatsoever. And upon trying to flee, if I remember correctly, she runs from him almost like every, I want to say like maybe every three, maybe four episodes, because she's just a common girl in one. And then later on, she moves somewhere else where she helps clean everything. And the prince, she goes by a different name. I think she changes her look and goes by a different name, and just claims that the girl that he is looking for is actually her twin sister or something. It's actually kind of funny. If I'm also not mistaken, in this show, there's a scene where apparently she's in the middle of a fight, or she's in the middle of being claimed between both the church for being a heretic as well as being praised by the actual kingdom because of how she is, her bravery and all that kind of stuff, and her nobility. Not nobility in the sense of being royal or anything, more of nobility and being like, how do I say? Nobility in being like she cares for the people, she wants to see them thrive, and she's gonna help them however she can. And during all of this, as you can see with this image right here, she actually becomes friends with the goddess. And during this argument between the church and the kingdom, she ends up calling upon the goddess, who shows herself, fucking blows the mind of everybody, including the Pope. And then the two of them just act like really good friends. And then the goddess just pops away. Like, okay, I'll see y'all later. Be good. I think there's even the moment right during this that she says something about changing the statue so that way the goddess seems more flat chested. To which she uh no to which she very gracefully, as she is a goddess, drops a washer or a washing pan on top of the main character's head. Like, screw you. I am not flat. Leave that statue alone. I want to impress this other god of your old world. So, yes, just for the slight cheekiness of the main character, for the adorableness of all of the female characters and how they interact with each other, and just because the fights they go on every now and then, just simply between the kingdoms and all that. Yeah, I really do recommend this show. Again, if you're not into shows that have like small statured characters or female characters, then I honestly have no way of trying to convince you. Because literally, she even turns this woman back here, if you can see where my mouse is, this woman back here with the blonde hair, she was once supposed to be a very respectable knight commander, but she was given a potion, and in doing so, she ends up looking smaller, almost childlike as well. But yeah, so I wouldn't be able to convince you if you're completely against all of that. But if you have no quarrels with that, if you're somebody who actually will look at these and just think that they're cute and nothing more, I highly do recommend it. And honestly, I really recommend that you watch. I really do recommend that you watch this all the way to the end and just see all the weird stuff that goes on in this character's life, because it is very much a somewhat slice of life kind of thing. Even though it does have magic and adventure all on it, as well as superpower, technically. But yeah, uh, so that's pretty much my anime list recommendations. Of course, there is like some animes that I have yet to get to. There's still some animes that are a continuation of what I've already seen and want to continue watching. But at the very least, for now, I pretty much have said all I can say. And this thing has already gone to 2 hours. Yeah, one of these days I gotta get some lo-fi music to go along with a lot of this. I gotta find some fancy lo-fi music. But either way, if I convinced you on any of these shows, definitely give them a watch. Pause at any moment and try to look up the show. Try to go and find it somewhere, either on the site that I use of all. Let me actually look at it. Either the site of allmanga.to, which also has anime shows, as I've been showing you, or who knows, maybe go to Amazon, see if you can find series there. Maybe go and see if Crunchyroll has a few of these, if you mainly use that as a way of watching. But however you watch, and whether or not you do watch any of these, that is completely up to you. I'm just showing you what I've thought. I've shown you the shows that I have watched and I have considered watching again a lot of times. So, for that, I will see you all next time.